think we are live. Bear with me for 1 second. Let me just see if the stream updates itself. Yes, we are live. Good evening, everyone. I can see we've got some of the usual faces in the chat. Stuart, David, Bruce, Jared, Callum, Toss, JG. Hope everyone is doing well. Happy Wednesday to you all. I've been away for a little bit. Channel has been a little bit quieter last week or two. Had some very busy times going on at work and with the family and stuff. So it's kind of taken a back seat, but really pleased to be back this Wednesday to do a podcast. I can just see actually that Iris Thomas just joined me, which is fantastic. Hopefully some of the others will be along in short order, and we'll have a few members of the panel with me tonight. Iris, let me bring you in for a sound check, mate. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. How's life?
Not too bad. Yeah, nothing. Just gone for a run. Same old shite. Good stuff.
Well, as a bare minimum, it sounds like you got me and Iris Tom tonight, guys. So yeah, we'll mumble our way through some boxing, but I'm sure one or two of the others will join as the show progresses. So plan for tonight's show. I'm going to start by doing a little run through of the boxing that we missed last week. Iris Tom may have to take the lead on that one slightly because I haven't actually fully caught up with it myself. Then going to look at some of the news in the sport of boxing. Hughie Fury versus Joseph Parker back on. The odds for the Cruiserweight tournament released. Jamie Cox entering the super middleweight tournament. Billy Joe Saunders leaving Adam Booth for the Ingle Gym. And then finally, we'll look ahead to next week's boxing, the Frank Warren card at the Copper Box. Also a preview of Ohara Davies versus Josh Taylor. So good stuff to to talk through. Lots going on. And yeah, Iris, let's start by talking about last week's boxing, specifically Jeff Horn versus Manny Pacquiao. Did you watch the fight, mate?
I did, yeah. Well, I thought it was a really good fight. I think it's I'm delighted with that fight. Not because, well, personally, I had Pacquiao winning 7-5. I could see 6-6 or 7-5 of the way. What were the scorecards? Was it 117, 111, and then 116, 112, and 115, 113?
I know there was a 117, 111, and I know there was a 115, 113. I don't know what the final scorecard was, mate.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of home cooking, to be honest with you. I think it's a bit of corruption there. You know, the 17-11 there's no way you can only give Pacquiao 3 points. You know, there's just no way you can only give him 3 rounds in that fight. But you know, that was on CB America. It was free to air. With Manny Pacquiao, Jeff Horn in a 12-round slugfest, bringing good, you know, big name boxing back to terrestrial TV in the States. In a good fight, bit of controversy. You know, not the worst cards I've ever seen. One bad, as we normally get, one bad card on for a home fighter, and the 2 other cards, 115, 113, I think it was twice. I don't think there's too much arguing with it. Pacquiao is no longer a top fighter, I don't think, unless he took Jeff Horn very lightly. But he did say in the post-fight interview he had a cold when he arrived, so that might take some of it out of him. But you know, I think we can see he's slipped, or if he, you know, he's not taking boxing as seriously as he used to. But you know, so I think you know, those things where we had Manny Pacquiao top pound for pound fighter, I think that's kind of gone with the high bike. With Jeff Horn, I was very impressed with Jeff Horn. He did a great, you know, he had this kind of you know, kind of like a mix between Sean Porter maybe and some bits of Ricky Hatton. You know, that jumping in and jumping out jitteriness that Ricky Hatton used to use, and his unpredictability. And he's just, goddamn, he's tough as nails. He went through that 9th round, and he was lucky to not get stopped in that 9th round. He took a shellacking, and he came back and he performed in the last 3 rounds. The state of his face, my God. So I think he's a top 10 welterweight. You know, he may be even a top 5 welterweight because he's got physical attributes there, and you know, he's tough as fucking nails. He won't last too long fighting like that, but you know, he'll give a lot of those tough guys a run for their money.
Yeah, I guess he's a true example. It's an overused phrase in boxing, but if you like, a real Rocky story. You know, the guy's a school teacher, as I understand it. I've actually spoken to him myself in the past, back in the day when I was doing a few more interviews with fighters, and you know, he seems like a really nice guy. Yeah, this is, you know, going to open up a whole new set of doors for him. Well, what's next for Horn, do you think? Do you think the rematch is going to be the most sensible option?
Well, I don't know. What I'd like to see is I'd like to see him and Joe Pasquale in a double act, because he's got such a high voice, body at all. So what's next? I think a rematch. I think a rematch is big money fight. Jeff Horn will get a lot of money. It'll be in Australia again. You know, Manny'd like to get the rematch. I think a rematch is the one that makes most sense. And then, you know, there's loads of good fights out there in the welterweight division. You know, if he beats Manny Pacquiao twice, and he can come to America then, you know, and he can get big fights. But, you know, he might actually morph into such a big fighter at home, you know, that he might be able to fill out 20,000 arenas. And so we might see that belt held hostage at Kell Brook for a while. But I was really impressed with Horn. You know, fair play to him. You know, I really... When I see a fella like, you know, Horn in that 9th round and gutsing it out, and James DeGale saying the 12th round against Badu Jack, you know, to me, that's what boxing is all about. You know, people just like really just going above and beyond, you know, just, you know, it puts tears in my eyes, literally, when I watch them. I get emotional watching fighters do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely proper warrior there. Manny Pacquiao, like, you know, for me, it's kind of hard to see where he goes from here. Even if he goes and beats up Jeff Horn in a rematch, you've got to say that the end is kind of now, like with the, you know, after this result and after the way he fought. Do you think it's time for him to, I mean, we've probably been thinking this for a while, but do you think it's time for him to consider his options?
Well, yeah, like, you know, I don't really care. I think he's obviously still a top level welterweight for me. On a bad day, you know, he gave a good welterweight, or, you know, I think he got the decision. I think he should have got the decision, Pacquiao, but it's not robbery. But, you know, it's up to Manny. With fighters like this, you know, I don't want to see him coming like Shane Mosley. I don't want to see him getting beat up. And, you know, I don't really think he got beat up in that fight. I think he got a couple of bad head clashes. But, like, I don't think, you know, look at Manny's face afterwards. It wasn't like he got beat up a lot. You know, I just think, you know, you don't want to see a guy go on too long. But I don't feel like he's taken a lot of punishment, Pacquiao.
No, I hear you. Jeff Horn, like, take your advice that he's put in a relatively impressive performance there. You know, having seen him box a few times in the past, I always thought of Horn as like pretty green, pretty, I don't want to say basic, but certainly pretty lacking in the sort of refinement of an elite level boxer. I've kind of watched this one on a small iPhone screen, so I maybe need to, you know, have another look and watch in a bit more detail. But yeah, for me, I didn't think it was. It didn't look like a good sign for Manny Pacquiao. One thing I haven't seen, Tom, is the Matchroom card. I didn't watch it, but the card, you know, featuring the debut of Joshua Buatsi, featuring Frank Buglioni beating Ricky Summers. Did you happen to catch that action?
Oh yeah, I did. I watched, I think, everything nearly. Apart from maybe the headline fight I saw, I was listening to some of it. I didn't get to see much of it, but yeah, just but before we go on here, what did you score the Pacquiao fight? You didn't get to see it enough.
I didn't get to see it properly.
To really judge.
Yeah. It's a
bit harsh on Jeff Horn, because, like, you know, you have most of us, well, I don't know, you in particular have a real kind of a fetish for the slick boxer.
Yeah.
You know, and the jabber. You know, but there are many styles, and he uses this unorthodox herky jerky, you know, pressure fighter style, and he's very good at it. You know, like if you were to say put him in there with Sean Porter, like I don't think there's too much of a difference between Porter and him stylistically, and maybe not even skill wise. So you know, and Porter we reckon is a top welterweight. Just some styles are more ugly than others, but I tell you, he was damn effective against Pacquiao. So like. You know, I think people are underrating him. People are like probably thinking Pacquiao is more shot than he is, and people are thinking Jeff Horn's not as good as he is. I think there's a bit of that in there. But you know, great stamina. Sorry, but then the Matchroom card, yeah, that was a dreadful card. That's got to be said. That was an absolutely dreadful card. It's like, how many? That's 2 weeks in a row. Pretty much Eddie Hearn has put forward, you know, just prospects against no hopers. You know, 100 to 1, 100 to 1, 100 to 1, 200 to 1, 100 to 1. You know, Ted Cheeseman, I think, was in like a 1-8 fight or 2, something like that. And, you know, I think if you put money on the entire card of 10 fights, I don't think you got. I saw the tweet, so something like you didn't get more than one, like, I think you didn't get more than 2 to 3.
Bloody hell, really?
On 10 fights.
Yeah.
You know, and most of them were just, you know, Conor Benn, another 4-rounder against a fella on 24-hour notice. And, you know, there's only, you know, I don't mind, like, when there's an exceptional talent like an Amir Khan or an Anthony Joshua or, you know, a Sugar Ray Leonard, or, you know, when there's one of these exceptional talents coming through from the amateur scene, that, you know, won world championships or gold medals, and they're obviously top class fighters, and they're put at the top of a card or close to the top of a card. I don't want to build them. I don't really have a problem with that, but I have a problem with having to watch like 3 hours of a show and they're all just these rubbish fights. You know, you go to your call card. It doesn't have to be like a big promoter. You go to your call card and you'll have well-matched fights all the way up. You know, and that those cards and listening to the commentary is just like, I think I prefer to sit in a bath and get someone to pour acid on me. You know. Yeah,
I must admit I didn't even watch it based on the card. It just didn't look like it had any entertainment value there at all. You know.
And they you know, like, you know, do you remember all the times you had to sit through Eddie Hearn talking about how, you know, all the crowd was really bad at a Frank Warren card and stuff. Like, there's 2 cards in a row now. Like, you know, the next generation one wasn't that bad, but this one, man, this one was unbelievable. Like, most of the fights there wasn't 300 or 400 people at it. You know, the atmosphere stank. The commentary was desperate. The fights were rubbish. Like, you know, I think Eddie Hearn is, to be honest with you, that's taking the piss.
Do you know what? As an Eddie Hearn nut hugger, I am going to slightly jump to his defence here. And what I'm going to say, and look, I thought the card was so bad I didn't even watch it, mate. So, yeah, I totally agree with you on that. What I will say is I think he booked out the venue because of Dillian White and then because of the Gale versus Smith that he looked to have O2 fights on. And when those fights fell through, he had an option of not having those builds. But because he's got a stable, because he's got a number of fighters he works with, and because the season's coming to a close, I think he kind of found himself in a bit of a difficult position where a lot of his marquee names were unavailable. The Kell Brooks, the Anthony Joshuas were unavailable. The proposed fighters, the Dillian Whites and the James DeGales, you know, their matchups had fallen through. And I genuinely think he's put those shows on just to give his fighters a run out before the end of season break. Now, from an entertainment perspective, that changes nothing, you know, but I don't think that was the true strategic direction he'd intended is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, but like, you know, how long far out was that? It was like 6 or 8 weeks?
Yeah, something like that.
You know, more. And was that supposed to be a pay-per-view card? Was that rumored to be a pay-per-view card?
Was that rumored to be a pay-per-view? I don't think... If that was for the Gale Smith, that would have been pay-per-view, realistically, yeah.
You know what I mean? So he wanted to sell it as pay-per-view, and then he just gives us this rubbish one on the other side. Look, I don't pay a Sky subscription, but if I paid a Sky subscription, I'd be raging at the quality. That is diabolical, man. Like, how can't he get Southern Area title fights on? Like, you know, whatever we say about Frank Warren, when some of the cards he has were, there was poor attendance at them, a bad atmosphere on the telly. And that's definitely true. But when you go to a Frank card, I went to one in York Hall where Boy Jones was fighting for a Southern Area title, and that was like the headline act. But they had an English title, and they had a couple of other, I think, area titles, and maybe even a Commonwealth flyweight title. And you had 4 title fights on. And I mightn't have heard of most of the guys that were fighting, but they were goddamn good. You telling me Eddie Hearn couldn't get similar ones in? He's got a very large stable. I just think any type of fight that takes up any type of money at all is going on pay-per-view. We'll see, because you remember he was talking when they add extra pay-per-view, he said this is going to help, we're going to push more money into the free ones. Like, give us a break. They're just gotten worse.
Happened. And you are right. I mean, thinking about it as you talk, we won't discuss it in detail now because we'll cover it at the end of the podcast. But Frank Warren's got a bill this weekend, which I guess you could say is a lesser bill. It's not a pay-per-view bill. It's not a headline name. And that's a bill, I guess, that's been decimated by other factors. It's a bill that's been decimated by the fact that the main fight, Billy Joe Saunders versus Kurt Cedez, has come off the bill. It's a bill that unfortunately clashes with Josh Taylor versus Ohara Davies, which is the big fight of the weekend. So it's a bill that is, a bill that really could have fallen apart in many ways. But you're right, Frank is gone, and I think he's got the Jermaine Smile versus Darryl Williams rematch on there, which is was a fight of the year contender first time round, definitely. And I guess what you're saying is fights like that could find their way on bills like the bill we saw last weekend for Eddie Hearn, I guess. Yeah,
like they had the Ted Cheeseman fight against Ryan, Matty Ryan or something, and right. That was for an English title, and that was reasonably okay. But the thing is, the Matty Ryan guy is of a low level. Ted Cheeseman looked reasonably good, but it's like, it wasn't a decent standard of an English, it was like a mismatch kind of an English level title fight. Sometimes, you can have a guy who is not that great holding a title and gets a true look. So I just think that if other promoters can do it, I don't see why Eddie Hearn can't. It's this model of watching boxing on Matchroom cards, of having basically maybe on a good card, you've got 2 to 3 fights at the top, but then everything else, and usually interspersed, and maybe even towards the top of the bill, there are loads of these, like watching somebody like Anthony Fowler punch somebody's lights out, or Joe Cordina or somebody punch somebody who's never been in a ring before, his lights out. And there's so many of these young guys, and he's putting them all there. I'm giving them primetime TV slots. Like, I don't care. Like, you have to be, if you ask me, you have to be Daniel Dubois or Anthony Joshua, or heavyweights are kind of special, and or an elite talent to get that kind of stuff, and not just any old guy who was on an Olympic squad just gets signed, and we're going to be given all this horseshit. I just think it's desperate. I think it puts people off boxing watching that stuff.
I did speculate at the time. I think Eddie Hearn's in a weird position with his stable, because a lot of his big name fighters, and not all of them, but if you think, obviously Carl Frotz is retired. You got someone like Kell Brook, who's maybe got 2 or 3 fights left. James DeGale, who's in that position. And what he's done is he's signed up a hell of a lot of talent who are Olympians turning over, debutants, that sort of thing. So I'm talking your Conor Benns, your Cadinas, Acolis, Fowlers, Kelly. Look, there's more names than that as well. I'm sorry if we worked it all out. You've got lots of names like Ted Cheeseman, Reece Bellotti, these sort of guys coming through, Isaac Chamberlain. And what's happened is they're all kind of at that sort of 5-0, 8-0, 3-0 sort of level. And as a result, none of them are necessarily in good fights at this point. What he is kind of lacking, I feel, in his stable is more fighters like an Ohara Davies, who's maybe 15-0, 20-0, you know, that sort of guy. He's got guys who headline bills who are coming towards the end of their careers. He's got guys who are at the start of their careers who are maybe not in the most competitive fights just yet. And it doesn't sometimes create the best viewing when you've got to sit through 3 or 4 Olympians who need a run out in 4-rounder after 6-rounder after 4-rounder against journeymen. You know, sometimes that can be, well, for me, it can be pretty tiresome, I must say.
Yeah, but I just think that his stable is that big, I'm sure he can make them if he wanted. Or he could have one of his guys fight a guy from another promoter. You know, Steffi Bull or fighter or some of the other promoters, you know, Dennis Hobson fighter. You know, it doesn't have to be that he's fighting his own. It doesn't have to be in-house. You know, it can be, there's loads of good domestic fighters out there. Why can't, if he's not got a thing, why can't he get, you know, get fighters on from that aren't his promotion, you know, and pay them, put them on telly. You know, I think that he has a kind of a duty to put on good shows, because that's rubbish. To be honest with you, when it comes to the non-pay-per-views, like, what you call them, Frank has had no pay-per-views, but when it comes to the non-pay-per-view cards now at the moment, it's just no competition. To be honest with you, Channel 5 is better. The Channel 5 ones are better.
Yeah, Channel 5 is just like extremely irregular though, isn't it?
That's true. But I'm just saying, well, the Sky free ones, they're pretty irregular now as well. How many of them are a year?
Oh, there must be, I don't know, there must be 15 to 20, I would guess.
8? There's probably that many Channel 5.
You reckon? Yeah, interesting. Okay. Okay. Yeah, disappointing stuff though, Tom. As I say, you know, I consider myself boxing hardcore, and I didn't even switch it on. I just had no interest in seeing it really. And I won't be doing the same this Saturday. When it comes to this Saturday, I'll be buzzing for it as per normal. So yeah, I'm with you there to a large extent, mate. Speaking of some of the news in boxing, one story that's broken today is Paul Butler's left Frank Warren and set to announce new promotional route next week. So surely he's off to Eddie Hearn, do you feel?
I think he might be gone to David Hay. Is David Hay not announcing something for ITV with Richard Schaefer?
Yeah, for Ringstar. Yeah. Funnily enough, that's gone fairly quiet, hasn't it? Like David Hay, when you know.
I heard there was supposed to be an announcement this week, Tom.
Okay, that'd be interesting for ITV.
It's something like that, yeah. Confirm, like saying that they're going to be going on terrestrial TV now. Somebody in the chat can tell me, but I'm pretty sure I read that there the other day. So, like, who knows? You know, I don't care who these fighters. I don't care who they fight for. To be honest, I don't give a damn once they're in good fights.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, but I do think if a guy like Paul Butler was signed with someone who didn't have a proven television deal or something like that, it could be a concern because you may not see the fights getting made off the back of that. But yeah, that was the news that broke today. Hughie Fury versus Joseph Parker is back on. We've spoken about that enough on this podcast. Hughie Fury now is supposed to be fighting on Frank Warren's undercard this weekend. The amount of problems there's been with the Furies, I'm slightly concerned that at this particular point, Hughie Fury is still scheduled to be fighting TBA this weekend. And to be fair to Frank, if you look at the rest of that card, even his debutants have names against them. There's good 10 fights on that bill, and every single one of them's got an opponent confirmed, with the exception of Hughie Fury. So, where are you at with the Furies, Tom? Are you have you got any confidence that we'll see them this Saturday, and that we'll see them in that rematch with Joseph Parker now?
Yeah, well, I don't care if we don't see him this Saturday. I just care that we see him against Joseph Parker. I'm sure they're just trying to get a few get fit fights, get back into the ring. But been looking at a few interviews with Hughie. He seems in good form. His skin seems reasonably good. I think he's a lot better. Saw him in the ring doing stuff. I think he looks a lot stronger. I think he looks like he's put on about 1.5 stone of muscle, I reckon. So I'm looking forward to. I just want to see Hughie in the ring. I think Hughie is the future of the heavyweight division.
Yeah, he's scheduled to fight this weekend at the Copper Box, and then he's scheduled to fight again actually in a card in Blackpool, I believe. So hopefully we can see him back. I did see some pad work between Hughie and Peter Fury, and he looked really, really good in that. Obviously, it was just on the pads, but he looked really fast, really sharp, and yeah, hopefully we'll see him back with a bang. It would be nice to see him get a run out on this card this weekend. Other news in boxing, Tom. Let me just pull up the list that I've got here. Terry Flanagan versus Felix Verdejo confirmed on the Box Nation side. And also Jamie Cox confirmed to be joining the super middleweight tournament that we've spoken about previously on the channel. Any thoughts on those stories?
Sorry, what was the first one again?
Felix Verdejo versus Terry Flanagan.
Yeah, Flanagan. Yeah, hopefully that gets made. That's a good fight. I think I'll have to go and look up some more tape again. But but if you asked me 4 or 5 months ago, I was saying Terry Flanagan's going to win that fight. And if it's in, I think it's supposed to be over here, isn't it?
That's the plan, I believe. Yes.
Yeah. So like, I think that what you call him, I don't know if Bob Arum is trying to cash him out or something. I think was thought to be the future, but I don't think he's what they thought he. I think we'll see. Terry has a good chance of beating a guy who's got a name, if not anything else. Jamie Cox getting into the super or the Muhammad Ali Trophy. Like, I think he's pretty lucky to get into that. To be honest with you, the super middleweight, super 8, whatever it's going to be called, World Boxing Series of boxing, that looks so far pretty shit, I must say, compared to the Cruiserweight, which looks absolutely brilliant. Like, the only fighter that's not in the Super 8 for the Cruiserweight is probably Tony Bellew. He's the only one. Lebedev as well, yeah. Maybe Lebedev or Tony, whatever. But everybody else you'd want in it is in there. So it's like, it's an amazing tournament. It's exactly what I was hoping for. The Super Middleweight Series, it looks like a lot of the Al Heyman fighters aren't going into it, from what I can see. I don't know what way they've been advised, but that means that a lot of the Al Heyman is a lot of the super middleweights, I think. So there's none of the American ones going in. Christ, I'd like to see David Benavidez going into that. I hope he gets into it because he'll clean it up.
Yeah, just to give you some odds, Tom. So for the Cruiserweights, William Hill and Paddy Power are offering markets. Usyk is evens. Bradis at 7-2. Gassiev at 4-1. Dorticos is 8-1. Marco Huck is up to 20-1. And Christoph Vladimir is 25-1. For the super middleweights, and I think this is kind of a hard market to formulate given that you've only got 3 people confirmed by the bookmakers, but George Groves is odds on. He's 10-11 to win it. Jamie Cox is 6-1, and Eric Skoglund is 12-1. Yeah, I must admit, looking at those odds, the only thing that jumped out at me is 2 things that jumped out at me. I think Alexander Usyk evens is actually an interesting bet. I find it hard to see him getting beat, and I think George Groves at 10-11. You know, if you're the kind of guy who goes on the exchanges and backs and lays, I wouldn't want to be backing George Groves to win a tournament at 10-11. I think George Groves is gonna be in very, very deep water. I wouldn't even want George Groves at odds on necessarily to beat a Jamie Cox. The way George Groves has looked in some of his recent fights. So, did anything jump out at you from those odds at all, mate? Tom? Oh, this is odd. It looks like we've lost Tom, but it looks like we've gained Jet. Hello, Jet.
Hello.
How's things?
Not so bad. Sorry. I'm only able to join for a short while today. Last minute thing. I forgot to email. Sorry.
No worries, mate. How long do you have?
Maybe about 30 to 45 minutes. It could vary.
Okay. No worries. I'll just finish up with Tom and then I'll bring you back in.
Sure.
Tom, I know you just dropped off, mate. Did you hear the odds I was reading out there? Did anything there sort of stand out to you?
Yeah, sorry, no, I don't think Usyk is good value at evens. I don't think that's a good value. I think Usyk is a bit overrated. I think the best value in all of them is Bradis at 7-2. Yeah, the Super 6 makes no sense. George Groves, like, unless they get a load of donkeys in there, there's no way he'll be evens. But we'll see what happens. That market probably won't. You won't even be able to lay it on Betfair yet. It probably won't exist because the names aren't there. But yeah, no, nothing more to say.
All right, cheers, Tom. Jet, I'll bring you in, mate. First and foremost, if you want to have a quick look back to last week's action, perhaps Manny Pacquiao Horn or the Matchroom card. Let's just bring it back there so you can get your thoughts in on action that we've already had, mate.
Yeah, not too much to add on the sort of Matchroom side. I mean, Buatsi had a decent debut. Picked his shots well. Looked very, very good. Deuce, obviously, first fight looking to impress. I did think he was a bit open a few times, but definitely time to improve. Only his first fight, so yeah, onwards and upwards for Buatsi. Bullioni Summers was I don't know what to say about that. Let's say there was a room full of people I was watching it with, and no one paid attention to the fight. Bullioni very, very, very overrated. European level at best. For me, he struggled with Summers quite a bit in that fight. The other fights, there were other fights. Ted Cheeseman looked pretty good. Reece Bellotti looked pretty good. It was basically essentially a next-gen show. Isaac Chamberlain looked pretty good. Lawrence Okoli looked a bit better than usual, I guess. Stopped a very sort of durable Russell Henshaw. So, not too much to add on that bill. Some good prospects and some guys to look out for, I guess. Apart from the main event, the card itself was just full of prospects, I guess. Pacquiao Horn, that was a bit of a weird one. I did have it a draw. I think I had it a draw 6-6, but I could see either way. Pacquiao winning 7-5 or Horn winning 7-5. I know Horn was very, very aggressive, but there is kind of you could say that the ninth round, I think it was when he had Horn. Pacquiao had Horn in a lot of trouble. I think that could have been even ruled a 10-8. Obviously, on the balance of play, it wasn't, but could have very easily been swayed towards the 10-8 for Pacquiao. But Horn did what he had to do. Pacquiao looked like he struggled a lot with the range. And maybe this is just the version of Pacquiao that we're going to get now, leaning against the ropes, kind of letting his man pressure him. And certainly the Manny Pacquiao of old wouldn't have done that. He would definitely have thrown those lightning fast combinations. And he did do that at times in the fight. He did pick the cleaner, crisper work. But, it was pretty inconsistent, and Horn was putting on the pressure. And especially in the hometown for Horn in Australia, you have to do a bit more, I think. So, yeah, I had it a draw, but I know obviously people are saying Pacquiao should have won, and some people are saying Horn should have won. So it's a mixed bag in that fight, and a rematch maybe on the cards. There's a rematch clause, so we'll see if that happens, I guess.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, sounds good, Jet. In terms of some of the news that we've already been discussing with Tom, Hughie versus Joseph Parker back on. Jamie Cox in the super middleweight tournament. Paul Butler leaving Frank Warren. Flanagan versus Video being confirmed, and also Billy Joe Saunders leaving Adam Booth. Do you wanna get in on any of those at all, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just do a brief rundown. So yeah, I've seen Billy Joe with Dominic Ingle now. He's obviously training with Kell Brook and the team over there. Good move for him is obviously Dominic Ingle. I think I was watching an interview with him, and he said it's not about the talent. Yeah, he already has that in bundles. He just needs to get down and get his attitude in check and get fit. I think he said that where he was, obviously in Hatfield or in London, he has a lot of distractions. So he's just obviously tried to relocate for at least a training camp and get his mind right. So hopefully it does work for Billy Joe. Who was the Jamie Cox? Good move for him. I guess it gets him some more exposure. He's obviously got exposure on the Sky side, joining Matchroom as of late. But yeah, good exposure for him. I know you read out. Did you read out 3 names? Was it Jamie Cox, George Groves, and Eric Skoglund or Skogland?
Yes.
There's also Jürgen Bremer's actually joined. He's moving back down to 168. So
wow.
He's in the Super Series. I don't know if you actually caught that news. It was on
Oh,
Boxing.
I didn't see that, mate. No, I missed that.
So he's in the tournament as well. Good addition to the tournament. Hopefully we have some good other 4 contestants, but not too bad, I guess.
Presumably that Tyrone Zoiga won't be in it.
I'd assume not, but yeah. Sorry, Tom. Irish.
Who did you say? Who did you say is coming back down?
Jürgen Bremer.
All right.
Yeah,
okay.
He's gone back down to 168 for the Super Series.
He's obviously decided to flee the division now. He's felt genuine 175 power, I guess.
Nathan cleverly bashed him up. I know. Yeah. So he's in the tournament. What was the other? Hughie Fury versus Parker. Sorry, go on.
There's some other UK guy getting added tomorrow, apparently, to the super middleweight, whoever that would be.
Yeah, that's correct. The Sauerland brothers tweeted that out about half an hour ago, that they're going to make an announcement tomorrow with a UK name. A lot of the presumption is that it's Callum Smith, and that Callum Smith and Durrell will both be joining.
Yeah.
But that would be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'd probably assume that's all right as well. Because De Gale, he's out at the moment anyway with the shoulder sort of surgery or something like that, so I wouldn't assume it's him. Who was the other one? Parker versus Hughie. Good fight. If it happens, I guess, is the main thing. Not when it happens, if it happens. So yeah, I'd still pick Hughie in the fight. I maintain that. I still think he's growing, he's learning, and I do think he can pick off Parker with the jab. I think Parker didn't look good against Kajanu in his last fight. He looked very, very poor. And he seemed to have regressed, to be honest. I know he's putting on weight as well, so he seems to have regressed a bit. But I guess we'll see, come fight night, or if the fight even happens. So, yeah.
Absolutely. What about Paul Butler, Jet? Was that a surprise?
Yeah, quite very much so. I didn't actually hear that news, so I was a bit surprised. He seemed to be one of the guys that Frank seemed to put a lot of time and effort into, or at least a lot of effort into. I think he tried to get him a lot of fights, especially after the Tete knockout. And I did think he obviously didn't showcase Butler very well in terms of his comeback and whatnot, but he tried to get him fights and rankings and that sort of stuff. I think he had a final eliminator lined up with the WBO. We all know Frank Warren and WBO are very pally, but he obviously tried to get him somewhere or another. And obviously, it's just not worked out between the two. And, I wouldn't be surprised to see Butler go over to Matchroom. And McDonnell versus Solis has also been ordered by the WBA for the regular bantamweight world title. So, the winner of that would probably, I'd assume, if it is McDonnell, a Butler match, a Butler fight could be interesting for, the sort of hardcores, I guess.
Yeah, no, 100%. Frank, I guess, did a very good job with Paul Butler initially. I kind of feel like his career has really stagnated. I think, in hindsight, it wasn't the best matchmaking to put him in with Tete. And, he's kind of struggled to really regain momentum. Not saying that's totally Frank's fault, but maybe a change of circumstances and some fresh eyes in his career could be a good thing for him, I guess.
Yeah, is he with Joe Gallagher now, I think? I'm not 100%.
I believe that is the case, yeah.
Yeah, so, he's obviously chopped and changed coaches and whatnot. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him on maybe at Matchroom or even Cyclone. I wouldn't be surprised to see him at one of the two, maybe. We'll see, because he just, in terms of going to Matchroom, he doesn't have the profile. I know, Matchroom fighters have a slightly bigger profile, obviously, on Sky. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him there, like if they're trying to build the fight with James McDonnell or even Ryan Burnett, if they're trying to build that sort of fight. So I wouldn't be surprised at all. I wouldn't be surprised also if he goes to Cyclone, because he can get onto Channel 5, or maybe like with Richard Poxon on ITV, and maybe go on like the Eubank undercards or something like that. So there are some decent options for him. But yeah, I guess we'll wait and see. I'm not really a fan of him, as you know. I know you're a fan of him, but yeah, he's kind of, as you say, plateaued in his career at this kind of moment in time.
Agree. Gents, we've gone through this at a decent pace, probably because there's only 3 of us. So I'm on my list. I'm ready to move on to next week's boxing. It may be that we only do an hour or so on the podcast this week, but before I do, let me just check whether either of you have anything else you want to throw into the mix regarding last week's boxing or any news stories.
Nothing from me.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Jet, are you good for another 20 minutes or so, mate?
Yeah, I mean, if we're finishing up early, I'm more than happy to stay. Don't worry about that. I'll manage.
Wicked. All right. In that case, I'll bring Tom in next, and then I'll come back to you about next week's boxing, mate.
Sure.
Tom, let me start by asking you: how will you be spending your Saturday night? Will you be trying to use your technology skills to watch both at the same time? Will you be picking one? Will you be sticking one on record? How's it gonna work in the Irish Tom household?
Well, I'm hoping to genetically modify my brain and to attach some retinas to the back of my skull so that I can watch a telly in front of me and behind me at the same time and thus see all of the matches that are going on.
Like your style, mate. I like your style. Fair to say that Taylor versus Davies is the fight of the week, but card is one that we really don't want to miss, especially given the tendency for those shows to produce absolute bomb burners at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be flicking through. I don't know what else is on the undercard of the Davies one. I haven't really looked at it. But I think, has anybody seen the odds? I know I've had money on during the week, but are the odds narrowing on that fight?
Yeah, I've heard that, and to be honest, that ties in with perception because I'll pull up the odds now, but a lot of the people that I've spoken to, really, really, really have Ohara Davies winning this fight. So let me give you some odds for the weekend's action. In fact, before I do that, I'll just read out what odds are. So up in Scotland, Davies. On the undercard, Jason Easton versus Steve Jamoy, and a few other names who I'm going to be completely honest, I haven't heard of. On the Frank Warren side, Gary Corkery versus Anthony Yard. Darryl Williams versus Jermaine Smile for the English super middleweight title. Asenia Byfield versus Sammy McNess. Ryan Garner, Archie Sharp. Daniel Dubois versus a 5-0 heavyweight Julian Fernandez. Leon Woodstock, who I've always been interested in on this channel, versus someone I haven't heard of. Hughie Fury v TBA. Sanjeev Sahota v Journeyman. Jordan Thompson v Journeyman. And 2 debutants. So in terms of the odds, Gary Corcoran 4-6, Larry Ekendeo 7-5, Anthony Yard is 1-40 on, Dubois is 1-100 on, Darryl Williams 5-11 against Jermaine Smile 12-5, Josh Taylor 14-19, whereas Ohara Davies still available at 11-8, and Bradley Skeet is 1-12 on. So anything in particular catching your eye there, Tom?
No, I have money on. Just have a look at the odds. I had money on Josh Taylor. I think people are getting carried away with Ohara Davies and like falling for his antics versus what his boxing ability is. So I think that's still value. I think you can get just over 4-6. Yeah.
Do you think? Do you have a prediction on how the fight will end in terms of method of victory?
I don't expect a knockout. I just think that it'll be a dominant points win for Josh Taylor. I think he'll have too much pace and tempo, and I think he's got too much movement, and I think he's not going to be there. Well, I think Ohara is going to be able to hit him a bit. He's no defensive genius. But I think he's just going to be able to outwork him and kind of box him, to be honest with you. And I expect it to be a 7-5, 8-4 type of fight, even 9-3.
Get a bit of 11-4 on Josh Taylor to win by points, which could be a value.
Yeah, I'm seeing like Tommy from the Boxing Asylum has some, with his tens of thousands of fake Twitter accounts, has put out a vote, a poll, and it's basically come out like 60-40 for 58-42 for Ohara Davies, which I'm very surprised about. I think people are just buying this kind of Matchroom hype about him. I think he hasn't displayed much in the ring. His best performance was like beating a shot Derry Matthews, who's probably a 2 weight divisions below him in size. So I just think, you know, Howard Davies is this probably come too soon, and I don't think he has the natural, or maybe he has the natural talent, but he's not there yet.
Interesting. Okay. Now that makes sense. Of the Frank Warren prospects, obviously a lot of names we like on this channel. Bradley Skeet, Leon Woodstock. Anyone in particular you're going to have your eyes peeled for, or just a general view, Tom?
Well, the Darrell Williams fight, I think that's the fight of that'll probably be the best fight. You know, I'll be watching Anthony Yard as well. Big fan of Anthony Yard. Sammy
McNess.
Sammy McNess, yeah, he's a fella I've been touting for a while. He's fighting for Southern area, so I'll be having an eye on that. He's a good fighter. I think people will be surprised how good he is. He's in the same weight division as Ted Cheeseman. There's a very natural fight to be made. You know, 2 fellas of a similar level coming through. That's a fight I'd like to see soon enough. I'm just looking at the odds for that Smile, Darrell Williams. Oh, wow. Darrell Williams is 5-11. They're not good odds. 12-5 for Jermaine Smile.
I've spoken to a few people who know Darrell Williams. I've had more than one person tell me that Darrell Williams almost pulled out of that fight because he had such a bad cold and flu bug the week before, and he only just recovered. So they're expecting a far more dominant performance from him this time round. We'll see.
I hear that, but you know how many times fighters make stuff up to, and we'll see. Like, you know, that'll just be a good fight regardless, because Smile is well able to fight too.
Yeah. Rob has made a good point in the chat, Tom. Another one of the fighters you like. I don't know if you saw that Jarrell Big Baby Miller is fighting Gerald Washington. That's quite a good class in the heavyweights.
That's a great fight. Well, I don't think it's a great fight. I think the odds on that are really close. Did I see what the odds were on that? I think I'll see if I can find them. I don't know if there are odds up, but that is like, you know, Miller is just going to rip his arms and legs off. You know, he is going to eat him up for lunch. To me, I think Baby Miller is the one that people are sleeping on, that heavyweight division. There's something about him. He is a beast, and he's a tank of a dude. He's going to come in there, and he's going to I think he's just going to absolutely steamroll through him. I think I saw when that fight was announced that Baby Miller is like, if not a minor outsider, just a minor favorite. To me, he's just going to absolutely walk through him.
Interesting. Yeah, I couldn't find odds for that one myself just yet. It's
Is it on Bockrek? Yes.
Let's have a look. So I think you can make cases for both guys in terms of styles. Like, I think
sorry, it is on Boxwick. I think Charlo is fighting Jorge Sebastian Highland as well on that card. He's moving up to middleweight.
Yeah, it's actually not that
there you
far
go. Yeah,
it's only 3 weeks away, that fight.
29th of June, yeah, July.
I think it's quite possible to make a case for Washington. You know, he's the longer guy. He's probably the slicker boxer. But I think you're probably right that when it comes down to it, Jarrell Miller's going to be too much of a dominant force, too big a guy, too relentless, and you just think that you know, Washington's gonna fold. Mikey in the chat has put no chance, Irish Tom. Washington is a great boxer. And Rob has put Miller's get to him, but Washington could take rounds off and make him gas.
He's not a great boxer. Are we getting to the stage where we're calling fucking Washington a great boxer? That's where we're at, boys, in the heavyweight division. Screw that. He's a boxer more than a fighter, but he's certainly not great. And he can be got to. Mansour went life and death. And Jarrell Miller is an absolute beast. He is a beast. And he's got the ability to make a thing into a fight. He's the only person I've ever seen with Fred Cassie actually able to turn it into a fight. Cassie's been in there with lots of different styles, and he's just made really awkward. But Miller just was able to bulldoze through him. And I think that he'll be able to do exactly the same to Washington, because Washington, I think, is one of those characters who doesn't like it when it gets rough. And I just think he's going to crumble. To me, that is a very easy bet. I'm waiting for odds on that one, because to me, that's like about as easy a bet as there is out there.
Yeah, I do know it's kind of hard to see Washington going the distance with Jarrell Miller, and it's kind of even harder to see Washington knocking out Jarrell Miller. So I take your point. I think there is a slight scope that if Washington does get his jab and movement going, Miller's a huge guy. Let's see how he's fighting in rounds 9 and 10 and 11. But whether or not Gerald Washington is the guy to provide that test, I think that's highly dubious. I hear you. Yeah, let's bring Jet in. Jet, I'll start with a similar question to what I asked Irish Tom. But which of these matchups are you going to be looking at this weekend?
Probably be keeping an eye on all of them. Obviously, pick of the bunch is Davies versus Taylor. So definitely keep a strong eye on that. But the Frank Warren side always has some barn burners on the card. So yeah, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on that as well.
Fantastic. Let's start with Davies versus Taylor. Irish Tom certainly thinking that perhaps a bit of hype with Ohara Davies, thinking Josh Taylor looks the more accomplished of the two. What's your take on that?
I think it's a very, very even fight. It's a 50-50 for me, or 51-49 sort of fight. For me, I go with Josh Taylor. I just think he's a bit more well-rounded. Do think he's got the slight better boxing skills. Davies did well against someone like Andrea Scarpa, but he did labour in that fight as well. He did show he had some boxing skills, but he did also labour. Many people expected him to knock out Andrea Scarpa, and he kind of laboured towards a 12-round, 12-0 decision. And maybe that's telling in this fight. Scarpa isn't at the level of Josh Taylor for me. I think Josh Taylor's got very good fundamental boxing skills. And I also think he's a decent puncher as well. He's not like a concussive one-punch knockout artist, but he's definitely got some decent power in there. I just think he might be able to use his boxing skills, move in and out of range, and pick Davies off. But Davies has got those ridiculously long arms for light welterweight, and he may be able to catch him at times. I'd go with Josh Taylor maybe on a majority decision or a split decision or something like that. I just think he might nick it. I think he'll probably win like 7-5 or something like that, and it'll be a very, very close fight. But is it in Scotland or something? Braehead?
Yeah, it's up in Glasgow.
So I'd expect Josh Taylor to get a bit of a more favourable sort of rubber the green on the scorecards. Let's say that. So, but I think it's the fight itself will be pretty close. I'd expect Taylor to and nick this fight just about.
Interesting. You put a gun to my head. I'm going to agree with both of you guys, actually. I've sort of flip-flop on this one as to who I think will emerge as the winner. I think there's solid reasons to make a case for both. I do think Ohara has a decent punch, and Taylor is quite susceptible to getting clipped and getting countered. But on balance, I do think Josh Taylor probably has the ability to take his game to another level, and I suspect he may just edge it. Jet, what about the Frank Warren card? What's your take on that one? Who are you particularly going to be keeping your eyes out for when that card goes off?
There's a few guys in there. Leon Woodstock, he seems pretty exciting. Every time I watch him, he's always in a decent, scrap for however long it lasts. So he's someone I keep an eye on. Daniel Dubois, obviously, just because of the name, I guess. He's fighting a undefeated sort of guy, 5-0 or something, for the WBC World Youth Heavyweight title or something like that, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I think it's for a youth title, as you say.
Yeah, WBC Youth Heavyweight title, something like that. So, let's see how he looks. Obviously, the guy's coming in with some ambition, 5-0. So, let's see how he looks. A few other, who else is also on the card?
Let me just pull up the schedule. So you've got Anthony Yard in a step-up fight for the WBO European. He's 11-0 facing Richard Baragny, who's 18-1. You've got Bradley Skeet versus Dale Evans. Gary Corcoran versus Larry Ekandeo, who's 12-0. Darryl Williams versus Jermaine Smile in a rematch. Leon Woodstock versus a journeyman type. Hughie Fury potentially making his return, mate. Sanjeev Sahota, Jordan Thompson, Archie Sharp, Ryan Gardner, and Sam McNess, who Irish Tom's very high on.
Yeah, Smile versus Williams will be a good fight. I need to watch McNess. I know Irish Tom seems to be keen on him, so I'll give him a look. Smile versus Williams will be good. Personally did prefer the Poxon versus Boy Jones Jr. fight, but you know, Smile versus Williams was an amazing fight as well, so I'll definitely keep an eye on that. I think Darryl Williams will probably win that fight again. Anthony Yard, obviously, I'm keen on Anthony Yard. He's someone who's very explosive, has good boxing skills as well. So yeah, there's some good guys on there, and yeah, some guys to keep an eye on. I guess I'll definitely be switching over, or just leaving the stream or something on the side, just trying to catch up on both at the time.
Superb. No, good stuff. I'm really looking forward to it, definitely. Just to mention, Paul, who couldn't join tonight, has just commented in the chat. Didn't get home in time to join, but for the record, he's picking Josh Taylor to knock Ohara Davies out. So unfortunately, it's one of those where we are a somewhat united panel and that nobody's to cause a bit of a minor upset this weekend. But yeah, no. So that's the fights that I had down to discuss. We've got through it all in about an hour. So let me just quickly ask the two guys if they've got anything else to throw in before we call it a day, and potentially we'll make it a slightly briefer one tonight. So Iris, over to you, mate. You there, Iris, mate?
Hello. Yeah. Well. Did we have one last weekend when we had the Kovalev review?
Yes.
Right. So, people, there was a couple of comments in the. I think you took them down from that thing, but there was a couple of comments of these boys accusing me of being racist for what I said. Okay. I just like to point out, right, that I picked Andre Ward for the first fight. I bet money on Andre Ward for the first fight. I won money on Andre Ward in the first fight. Ward, the decision. I thought he won the first fight. And I expected him to win the second. Well, I don't know. But not only that, like, my missus is black. I've got a mixed race kid, right? But all these kids, these Andre Ward fans are so delusional that they think that if you actually diss Andrew Ward, the only reason you can do it is because you're racist, and it's just bullshit. Look, what happened in that ring was a disgrace. It doesn't matter whether black, white, yellow, red, whatever the hell.
Tom, sorry, I think we've lost you slightly there, mate, with the signal. Do you want to try again?
Fuck it, no. How much did you hear?
You were clear up until the point you said what happened in that ring was a disgrace, regardless of what race someone is.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter. Like, I don't look at boxers like that, and in fact, like most, if not all, of my favorite boxers, I think of probably some Mexicans in there, but like so I think there's a real load of bullshit around Andre Ward, and it's his character that puts people off, and it's his style of fighting that puts people off. And maybe there's some racists out there that want Kovalev to win, but there's no defending what went on in that ring. There's absolutely none. And for people to say you're a racist for pointing out is just bullshit. Particularly as I'm a bloody communist, and I believe that everybody should be equal. I just thought I'd say that.
Properly nailing your communism to the master, Tom. That's what I like to say. No,
absolutely.
I if I'm completely honest, I vaguely do remember those comments. I actually can't recall if I took them down or if the person who posted them took them down. But it's kind of irrelevant, as you say, I guess. Jet, over to you, mate. Anything else you want to throw into the mix before we wrap it up and call it a day?
No, nothing from me, mate.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, guys. Well, good weekend of boxing coming up. I hope you guys on the panel enjoy it. I hope you guys in the chat enjoy it. Ohara Davies versus Josh Taylor, free to air on Channel 5. Some real tasty prospects on Box Nation for us to be keeping an eye out for. So thanks to everyone for joining. Thanks to everyone for watching. Check out Jet's channel as well as mine, which is the Boxing Discussions channel on YouTube. And we'll wrap it up there, guys. So thanks very much indeed.
Au revoir.
If you went